All right, guys. So the other day I was talking about a Games Workshop win with them deciding to outlaw AI in their development and business practices, if it were. And I said that that was a W, but we actually have a pretty big Games Workshop L today. They just added female Custodes to Warhammer 40K, and the internet is understandably having some big feelings about that. And you know what? I'm mad, but I'm mad for many reasons about this. First off, there is nothing wrong with having male-only factions in a predominantly male fan base, which I actually have a video about where I oddly used the Space Marine 2 video game as an example. But one of the things that I really want to talk about today that bothers me is that 40K already had some of the most amazing, badass female characters in all of gaming, and Games Workshop just decided to forget about them in an attempt to own the chuds or force women into roles where it doesn't make a lot of sense with the lore. I mean, I just recently got into 40K back with the release of the Space Marine 2 game. Now, I have just barely scratched the surface. There's so much in the way of lore, but even I already knew about some of these badass characters. So I kind of just wanted to make a video giving them some moments in the sun, I guess, because we're talking about warrior nuns in power armor who fight with literal faith, and women with no souls who can make your brain explode just by standing near you, and immortal warriors who have died and come back multiple times. Even a literal angel who resurrects from death with flaming wings. So stick around, because I'm about to explain why Warhammer 40K's female representation was never really a problem, and why these characters, I think, deserve more love. Disclaimer though, like I said, I just recently got into the lore since 2024. I am by far an expert, and my pronunciation is shit. So bear with me, and fanboys out there, feel free to roast me in the comments. Let me know what I get wrong or how I can pronounce things more properly. Before we dive in, let me give you the crash course, I guess you could say, for those who aren't net deep in 40K lore. So Warhammer 40K is a tabletop war game, and one of, I guess you could say, the darkest sci-fi universes ever created. It's set 38,000 years in the future, hence the name 40K, and humanity is basically on the brink of extinction. The Imperium of Man, or humanity's galaxy-spanning empire, is led by the God Emperor, who's been stuck kind of on a life support throne in a coma for 10,000 years. The setting is called the Grim Dark, meaning everything is just awful, everyone's suffering, and hope is basically dead. Humanity at this point fights aliens, demons from hell, and itself an endless war. The tagline is literally, "In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war and space racism." Now, Space Marines are the poster boys of 40K, genetically engineered super soldiers who are all male due to their genetic augmentation process. The Custodes are even more elite. The Emperor's personal bodyguard, 10,000 golden warriors who protect him on Terra. But here's the thing, the setting has always had incredible female characters and factions, and from what I've been able to see, they're even well respected and loved within the franchise. So it's not like women aren't appreciated in 40K lore. They just had to fit the lore appropriately. Anyway, let's get into some of the ones that I've learned about that I actually thought really cool and I thought you would like to. First up, we have the Sisters of Battle, the faith-powered warrior nuns, or the nuns with guns. So let's start with the Adeptus Sororitas, better known as the Sisters of Battle. Again, my pronunciation is crap. These women are, I guess you could say, everything the Space Marines aren't. And maybe wish they could be, because everything that they do without genetic modification. And it's all done through extreme faith and belief in the God Emperor. The Sisters of Battle are an all-female military order that's been part of the 40K universe since 1987, literally since the beginning. They're the military arm of the ecclesiarchy, which is basically the state church of the Imperium. Think warrior nuns in power armor with flamethrowers and chain swords, screaming hymns as they burn heretics alive. And here's what makes them absolutely insane. They wear power armor and use bolters just like Space Marines, but they're completely unaugmented humans. No genetic engineering, no implanted organs, no super soldier serum, just training, discipline, and faith. And their faith literally manifests battlefield miracles at times. And this isn't metaphorical. In 40K lore, their devotion to the Emperor grants them actual supernatural abilities. They can shrug off mortal wounds that would kill normal humans. They've resurrected fallen sisters mid-battle, summoned divine fire from the sky, and move with supernatural speed and strength. The game literally has a mechanic embedded in it called Acts of Faith, where you get special dice representing the Emperor answering your prayers. Like, how cool is that? I've never played the tabletop game, and I kind of want to, guys. I gotta pick the figures. I gotta pick my faction. I like the orcs. I don't know. Anyway, their origin story is brutal, and anything with 40K is extremely dense, so I'm going to try to condense their origin story down as best as possible. During an event called the Age of Apostasy, a tyrannical leader named Goj Van Dyer took control of the Imperium and created a reign of terror. He discovered this group of warrior women on a backwater planet and kind of turned them into his personal army, the brides of the Emperor, as he called them. And he convinced them that he was the God Emperor, that the God Emperor was not in some weird little coma sitting on a throne hidden underneath the Imperium. And Van Dyer was creating a lot of problems, which eventually led the Custodi, the actual God Emperor's bodyguards, to come and finally attempt to overthrow Van Dyer. But they couldn't do it because the brides of the Emperor were standing in their way. So eventually they had to take them down and actually show these women who the God Emperor actually was. And that's not something that happens. It was extremely rare for you to be able to stand in the presence of the God Emperor himself. But that was what it took to get them to understand that they had been lied to, that they had been tricked. And when they realized that they'd been lied to, they personally executed Van Dyer. It was epic. They were then reorganized into the Adepta Sororitas. And the coolest part, there's a rule in the imperial law called the decree passive that says the ecclesiarchy can't maintain men under arms. The Sisters of Battle exist on a technicality that they're not men. So they can be the church's army. It's a perfect example of 40K's dark humor and a way that the lore itself allows these types of groups to exist. Right? So if you have the rules set up in the universe for this all-female faction, it would kind of ruin it to then just decide, no, men have always been in here. Just you've misunderstood how we explicitly set this up, you know. And there's nothing wrong with creating rules that make sense around the Space Marines and the Custodes being exclusively male. Anyway, that's tangent. I have feelings. Anyway, there are 6 major orders within this group. Each have their own color scheme and specialties. We have the Order of our Martyred Lady, denoted by black and red. We have Order of the Valorous Heart, denoted by red and black. Confusing. We have the Order of the Bloody Rose, red and white. The Order of the Ebon Chalice, black and bone. Order of the Sacred Rose, white and red. And the Order of the Argent Shroud, silver and white. These nuns with guns, I think, are so fun and so cool. I spent hours deep diving into their stories. There's so much that it wouldn't fit in this video. Next up, let's talk about Saint Celestine, because this woman is legitimately one of the most powerful beings in the entire Imperium. Celestine is a living saint, an extremely rare individual who has been resurrected from death by the Emperor himself and granted supernatural powers. She's a member of the Order of our Martyred Lady, and she is terrifying. So she is one of those nuns with guns. But here's her deal. She has died and been resurrected multiple times, not once, not twice. She's come back from death more times than I was able to count. Every time she falls in battle, she eventually rises again with angelic wings of pure faith sprouting from her back and a flaming sword in her hand. But death is literally her job description. Her powers are beyond absurd. She can fly with psychic wings made of pure faith, wields an ardent blade, a sword so bright you can't look directly at it, can call down fires of retribution from the sky, can heal wounded allies with divine energy, and radiates holy light that terrifies enemies and inspires allies. She's basically if an angel and a phoenix had a baby who was really, really, really angry at heretics. Her recent lore is also pretty incredible. During the 13th Black Crusade, when the forces of chaos launched their biggest offensive ever, Celestine showed up and fought Abaddon the Despoiler, the main chaos bad guy. And when the fortress world of Cadia fell and everything looked hopeless, Celestine led the survivors through the webway to safety. Then she helped resurrect, really gonna butcher this name, Robute Gilliman? We're gonna go with that. One of the Emperor's Primarch sons who had been in stasis for 10,000 years. She's now fighting alongside him in the Indomitus Crusade trying to save the Imperium. Oh, and she has these 2 bodyguards called the Gemini Superia, former canonesses named Genevieve and Eleanor, who, ironically enough, have also died and been resurrected specifically to protect her. They've died and come back multiple times as well, just doing their job. Celestine is essentially the Emperor's personal avenging angel, and she's been doing it since long before the current crisis. Moving on, we have the Sisters of Silence, the Soulless Assassins. I thought these characters were so cool. All right, because this is the really weird stuff. Let me introduce you to the Sisters of Silence, also called Anathema Psychana, or the Silent Sisterhood. I'm sorry, I mostly read. I should watch more videos of people pronouncing things. Forgive me, 40K people. Please let me continue to love your lore. Anyway, these women are terrifying in a completely different way than the Sisters of Battle. Every single one of them is what's known as a blank, meaning they have no presence in the warp, which is basically hell where psychic powers come from. Oh yeah, there's psychics in 40K. The blanks have no soul, and being near them typically feels wrong, unsettling, like something is fundamentally broken about reality. To psychers, which are people with psychic powers, the Sisters of Silence are walking nightmares. Just being in their presence nullifies their psychic abilities, causes physical pain, can literally make weaker psychers' brains just explode, and can make demons from hell or daemons recoil in terror. The strongest sisters can develop their null abilities, or the abilities to nullify psychers, so intensely that they became Oblivion Knights, or warriors so anti-psychic that using any psychic power near them becomes lethal. How cool is that? This is where I thought the retconning of the Custodes was so odd, because these women fight along the Custodes as the talons of the Emperor. While the Custodes are considered the right hand of the Emperor, the sisters are the left. They're literally the only other military force allowed to walk freely in the Imperial Palace. Their gear is also insane. They wear the golden aramite armor, the same material the Custodes armor is made from, so they can look just as cool. They wield executioner great blades, these like massive two-handed power swords that can cleave a space marine in half. And they use psychic grenades filled with the ashes of dead sisters that can destruct psychic defenses. So they had even already accounted for a female equivalent of the Custodes, the sisters. And the Custodes and the Sisters of Silence commonly would work together to protect the Emperor. You know, like men and women are made to work together, and both have their own strengths and weaknesses to complement each other. It was so odd. Part of me was hoping when we saw the leaks, you know, of like some of the images from a year ago with the female Custodes, that it actually would have been like, no, we're actually gonna do the Sisters of Silence. During the burning of Prospero, one of the biggest battles of the Horse Heresy, the Sisters of Silence were deployed alongside Space Wolves to destroy the Thousand Sons Legion. And the Thousand Sons were all psychic warriors, and the sisters hard countered them completely. It ended up being a brutal massacre. In recent lore, they fought Primaris Space Marines, which is the new bigger Space Marines, and they even won. These are essentially unaugmented human women beating genetically engineered super soldiers through training, equipment, and their anti-psychic abilities. Oh, and they all take a vow of silence. They literally never speak once they become full sisters. They communicate through like a form of sign language. Now, let's talk about the Eldar, the ancient space elves of 40K, who are trying very hard not to go extinct. Jain Zar, called the Storm of Silence, is a Phoenix Lord, essentially an immortal legendary warrior who founded one of the Eldar aspect warrior schools. Here's what you need to know about her. She founded the Howling Banshees, an almost exclusively female aspect warrior group that specializes in close combat. The Howling Banshees are legendary for their war cry, which is actually a psychosonic weapon built into their masks that can paralyze enemies before they even land a blow. Jain Zar's scream is even more powerful, and it can literally liquefy people's brains. Her backstory is tragic and brutal. She was born right before the fall of the Eldar, a catastrophic event where the Eldar literally partied so hard they birthed a chaos god named Slanesh, who ate most of their souls and destroyed their empire. Jain survived as a young girl fighting in gladiatorial arenas, and then was rescued and trained by Azerman, the first Phoenix Lord. She's also died and come back multiple times through a unique mechanic. When a Phoenix Lord dies, their armor and weapons contain their souls and memories. So when another Eldar warrior dons the armor, they merge with the previous wearers, essentially resurrecting the Phoenix Lord. Kind of cool. The most recent time she died, she was cut in half by another Phoenix Lord named Drazar in the Dark City of Komorag. But everyone thought that she was done for. But Yvraine, who we'll talk about next, asked the elder god of death, Ynnari, to bring her back. A howling banshee exarch named... Oh, these names... Quitinian put on Jain Zar's armor and was resurrected with not just Jain Zar's power, but also the power of a god. And then when Drazar came back to finish the job, Jain Zar killed him in an epic duel. I mean, her weapons are even legendary. The Janus Moor, or Silent Death, is a 3-bladed throwing weapon wreathed in black fire that always returns to her. And the Zai Moren Blade of Destruction is a curved power sword that shimmers with ancient power. She's the fastest Phoenix Lord except for Bahoroth, and she regularly travels the webway to teach at Howling Banshee shrines across every craft world. She's basically a traveling master warrior who shows up, trains the next generation, and then vanishes to the next war. Speaking of Yvraine, let's talk about why she's one of at least the most important characters of the current 40K lore. Yvraine is the chosen emissary of the Ennead the elder god of death who was recently awakened. She leads the Ynnari, a faction of Eldar from all walks of life who worship Ennead and believe he can save their dying race. And her resume is absurd, guys. She's a former exarch, or an elite aspect warrior, former Corsair pirate captain, former gladiator, died and was resurrected, and now has power over death itself. That is quite an extreme resume. And get this, she can actually resurrect the dead. During the 13th Black Crusade, when fighting the Thousand Suns, the Chaos Space Marines, she proved her power to the sorcerer Ahriman by restoring a dozen Rubric Marines, which were warriors who had been turned into soulless dust automatons. She was able to restore them back to their living forms, and just to make a point too. Her faction is pretty revolutionary because it unites Craftworld Eldar, Dark Eldar, Exodites, and even Harlequins, groups that normally hate each other, and they all are united under one banner. In a setting where the Eldar can't agree on much of anything, she's leading a unified movement. She helped save Imperial forces fleeing Cadia's destruction and then traveled to Ultramar, where she worked with Belisarius' call to resurrect Roboute Guilliman. I'm gonna get roasted so bad. She's now allied with the Imperium against Chaos, which is basically unheard of. Oh, and she's been hunted by Drazar, survived battles with Chaos Sorcerers, stole an artifact from Martarion's plague planet, and regularly faces down greater daemons. She's essentially playing 40 chess across the galaxy. All right, so let's bring this back to the Imperium with Morvenn Vahl. Morvenn Vahl is the current Abscess Sectorium, the supreme leader of the entire Adeptus Sororitas, those nuns with guns or the sisters in battle. She's also a High Lord of Terra, meaning she's one of the 12 most powerful people in the Imperium, rolling over trillions of humans. Here's why I think she's amazing. She was chosen to be a puppet and immediately proved everyone wrong. The ecclesiarchy elected her specifically because she was young and politically inexperienced. They thought they could manipulate her. Instead, she showed up to her first High Lords meeting wearing full battle armor. She intimidated everyone in the room, made it clear she wouldn't play politics, and then left Terra to lead crusades from the front lines. She pilots the Purgator Mirabilis, an ancient Paragon warsuit that's essentially a mech suit. She also wields the Lance of Illumination, a relic power spear that was gifted to her by the Custodes. That's right, the Custodes gave her a weapon. That's how much respect she commands. She's led multiple crusades, fought Night Lords Chaos Marines, coordinated with Black Templar Space Marines, and continues to inspire Sisters of Battle across the galaxy, all while refusing to sit in an office on Terra like previous abbessesses. She represents everything the Sisters of Battle are about: unwavering faith, leading from the front, and refusing to compromise. So if you can see by all of these women, and again, like, the lore is so deep that I already know I've barely scratched the surface in everything that 40K has to offer. And that's partially why I'm frustrated about the female Custodes retcon, because it's not about wanting female quote unquote representation. It's about the fact that 40K already had incredible females organically, and I don't know, it was being celebrated by the people that love the lore, but not by Games Workshop. What's so annoying is that these incredible characters and factions have been in the setting for decades, and if Games Workshop really wanted to do something special, they could have just celebrated them. It feels less genuine and honestly more like, oh crap, we forgot to include women in our shiny new thing, or we need to own the chuds. And from everything that I've seen, these characters are well respected. They are liked and enjoyed in the lore. I said it in my other video about Space Marine 2. I loved that game because it was masculine. And a lot of women don't like masculine things. And those of us that do like it the way that it is. We don't want these things to change. It's perfectly fine to have overwhelmingly masculine IPs and for hobbies to be geared and marketed more towards men, and for those to be preserved for men. I feel like I am a little bit more of a guest in this space, and I want to continue to be a guest in these spaces, and I want to continue to learn more about 40K lore and hopefully not get kicked out of the group because I can't pronounce the names. But the more that these IPs keep pushing and forcing this stuff, they're not actually helping welcome women into any of these spaces. They're causing men to want to gatekeep and want to kick us out. And honestly, I get it, because I've already seen IPs that I care about get destroyed because stupid feminists decide we need to make this male franchise a female franchise. If you are a 40K fan, whether you're newer or a veteran who's frustrated about this Custodes thing, like, I get it. I was upset, and I didn't grow up with this. I haven't invested so much time and money into it the way that you guys have. This is a newer love for me. So for me to be upset and annoyed, I can only imagine how upset and annoyed all of you guys are. So I get it. And I hope you don't allow it to ruin what you already love. But that's kind of all I got for this video. Which one of these characters did you like the best? Do you agree with this list that I made? Is there somebody that I missed that you felt should have been in the list? How many words did I mispronounce? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. Anyway, that's all I've got for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Peace out. Bye.